So, who else saw the Good Omens series? It was so good. So, I only read Good Omens maybe like a year ago. So I guess I'm pretty new to the party, and I haven't actually read a lot of other books by either Neil Gaiman or Terry Pratchett. I've seen a lot of things by Neil Gaiman, but I really haven't read hardly anything of either of their work, except for this one. And my overall impression of it was, my, that demon and angel are really gay. Like, they are a couple. And so I just want to take a moment and just really thank Neil Gaiman and all of the production staff and everyone involved, because it was so perfect. It was so good. They were so, oh my gosh, Ineffable Husbands. I just scroll that tag on Tumblr all day, every day. I'm obsessed. I mean, the 10th Doctor is my doctor. So I already have a soft spot for David Tennant, and I was like, Demon David Tennant, checks all the boxes. But their chemistry, just the lines, the way they act, it was so cute. It was so cute. However, Good Omens is a weird story. It has kind of a nonsense plot, and so as you're going through it, I was just like, man, what is happening? Whole way through the book, like, what in the world is happening? And you get to the end, you're like, oh, all right, that tied up nicely. Same thing with the series. The series is true to that. I'm just gushing. By the way, this is a video of me gushing now. I don't know why I'm titling this anymore. Knowing who the characters are and who to pick out, I had like the fan quality watching it, where I was just like really, really excited for every single thing. I wonder if not knowing what was going on would have confused the heck out of me, because it is kind of a hard plot to follow. So unless you are like invested in Crowley and Aziraphale getting together, which they're already together, they're already totally married by the time you see them, but like admitting their feelings, if you're not invested in that, it is a difficult plot to be like, okay, what's happening now? End of the world is coming, but like, who are these children? That kind of thing. I would recommend reading the book first, just for that. Just if you have no idea what's going on in the universe, the show might be difficult to follow. And I think having the background made a lot more sense. But the show was so good. It was so good. If you haven't watched it yet, just get Amazon Prime so you can watch Good Omens. I was so into it. I'm gonna watch it again. Maybe I'll watch it again tonight. I watched it in one day. I was like, oh, I'll just watch an episode today. And then I spent the rest of my day watching the entire thing. So yes, thank you to Good Omens for being so good. Anyway, I think I had initially planned on doing this video talking about subtext, because one of the great things about a show like Good Omens coming out today is that they can be like, hey, these guys are totally together, and have all these like not so subtle hints, because there are some subtle parts where you're like, okay, I could see them just being friends, but they like make sure that they let you know, hey, at least everyone else in this universe thinks they're together. So that was so great. So they took what I read as subtext because of when this came out, and just because I assumed I was reading into it because I've read into many things. I want to talk about kind of how prevalent that is, having gay subtext. In TV shows you see it a lot, and we read into it a lot. I'm thinking specifically of Teen Wolf, where the actors shipped their characters, but there was no, well, and thusly we all shipped their characters, but there was no basis for that. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Derek and Styles. I had a friend watch the show after, I think I had been gushing about it, and the friend watched the show and was like, they're really cute, but like, where's this coming from? The characters don't even barely interact. And I was like, oh yeah, you're right. Supernatural has the same problem, but it's a different problem, I think, from books. And when books have the problem, it's more like with this, where it's like they're totally together, hint hint, nudge nudge, but they don't say it out loud. Even more subtext. Let's talk about like Legolas and Gimli. Through the entirety of the novels, I didn't ship them. they don't really have that much interaction. The movie put in a lot more interaction between the two than I remember from the book. Tolkien goes ahead and is like, oh, only elves sail off into the Grey Haven, and they only bring their family, and if you build a boat for someone, it's for your family and your loved ones. Oh, by the way, Legolas built Gimli a boat and took Gimli over, and he's the only dwarf to ever go over. And you're like, that ain't subtext, dude. That is hitting me in the face. But it wasn't within the novels. It was all extended universe. You're just like, you telling me they're married? Straight up. There's no other way to take that. So, but because it's not part of the main plot, that ends up being subtext. This is like the Dumbledore problem. And I do want to stop and say, a lot of you are young and you don't remember the 90s, but when Dumbledore was announced as gay, that was freaking revolutionary. Nowadays, no one would be able to get away with being like, oh yeah, a character in the background was gay. Back then, that had a huge amount of impact, and it probably has swung us in the direction of accepting more than people understand, more than people who are younger understand. It was a different time. Probably it may have never been published if it was explicit about Dumbledore, and I'm talking even when the last books were coming out. We are in a much more accepting time. It's pretty recent, and it's really good if you don't remember when it wasn't as okay, because there are things that have come up since then that have made it okay, and that's good, that's great. We want more representation. But the whole thing with Dumbledore, the like, after the book is done being like, oh yeah, he's gay, not gonna fly now, but you do have to like understand what an impact that made at the time. That I realize J.K. Rowling is trying to get away with more things like that, and we're past the time when that is something that flies, but I have to give a pass to that because it is really, for being as mainstream as it was kind of a culture shift. People were talking about something that was not something people talked about in mainstream culture. So I don't know if that rant really got through. Things were like this, where it was like, oh, maybe they're not. Whereas like Harry was kind of stupid. You can give him that. It would have been very difficult for him to notice that Dumbledore was gay in the first place. And obviously we were all shipping McGonagall with Dumbledore up until it kind of became more obvious that he had a previous love encounter. Anyway, all that aside, subtext is out, man. Explicit content is in. I'm talking like Alec and Magnus in the Mortal Instruments series, where they're like, BT dubs, this guy's gay, right off the bat, and you're like, cool, great. And they're like, BT dubs, he's gonna get with the hot warlock, and you're like, I'm in on all of this. I'm going to need an entire spin-off series just talking about how much that warlock likes to get into that boy's pants. I'm gonna need more content. And then she gave it to us. YA is really good. Oh, let me put back. YA is really good at taking the subtext out of the gay subtext and just giving us what we want. I would like to say that there's not enough lesbians and there's not enough different colors of relationships. Still, we can do better, we can do more, but we're getting there, which is kind of my point, which is why I'm so freaking excited that something as big and as old as Good Omens, I'm talking about like it's like super old, but something like that can be so obvious about it, and that it's okay. We're getting more of that in the mainstream culture, and I think it's amazing. I think it's so good, and I think we'll get more and more like good representation of like healthy relationships, because really they're an angel and a demon, and they're like, we're not supposed to be doing this. We're not supposed to be friends. We're not supposed to like rely on each other. You're not supposed to like come dancing in to save me at every possible opportunity. I'm not supposed to be putting myself into trouble where you can come and save me. You know, all that cute stuff. They still are each other's number one in the end, and finally admit to it. No, what a beautiful love story. Where was I going with this video? But I like the payoff aspect. That's the one thing in the book. I didn't feel like there was much payoff. You had to read for it, which you've always had to read for it. But it's really nice you don't have to read for it, where they're just like, now they're kissing. You're like, yes, vindication. And of course, people have talked about, going totally aside, how the relationship with Aziraphale and Crowley is a little bit more played like maybe they're asexual because they're angels. I like that too. Good point. However, still not enough representation. I think more representation on the whole LGBTQ plus spectrum is really needed. When a lot of it is still subtext, this is where I was going with this. Here, we've come back around to my point. When a lot of it is subtext, when a lot of it is not explicitly stated, when you're like, they're together, are they gay, are they friends? If everything is like that, then we're kind of where we were back in the 90s, where it's like, there's no representation, so one thing is suddenly earth-shattering. Like, people can grasp onto them as being an asexual couple because there's no other asexual representation for gay couples, you know, that kind of thing. The more we get, the more people can have their cake and eat it too, can have their like strong asexual relationships that are explicitly that, and have their strong sexual relationships that are explicitly that are same-sex, that are multi-sex, that are wherever we want to go with this. There's just not enough yet. But it's so exciting to be living in this time when people aren't accepting the subtext anymore. And it's nice to not have to read into, well, what's really nice about Good Omens was I had seen that in the book when I was reading it, and then to just see it on the screen, to have it accepted largely. Large-scale mainstream acceptance of gay characters is amazing. We're even getting better with asexual characters, with transgender characters. There is getting to be more acceptance and more representation. We can do better on the lesbians. There could be more. And bisexuals. There could be more nuanced relationships that have to do with both things. But we're getting it and people are accepting it. And even the crazies who were trying to petition Netflix to get rid of Good Omens, which is hilarious. Half of them were probably like, oh, we can't have a representation of God as a woman. You know, they probably didn't even see what I was watching and what we're all enjoying. What else did I have to say about that? This was just a video to gush about how much I really enjoyed Good Omens. I wrote a fanfic. I haven't posted it yet. It was a very short little fanfic right after watching everything with Good Omens. I just couldn't help myself. I need some fanfic recommendations down below, Crowley and Aziraphale. If you could get me something that's pretty cute. Anyway, leave any good fic recs you have down in the comments, please. You might be asking yourself, okay, why didn't you do this for Gay Pride Month? I meant to. I watched Good Omens during June. There was far too much anxiety going on to film anything. So yeah, I just had a really bad mental health month and I think I'm through it. I was having a lot of panic attacks actually, which are really not fun. If you've ever had a panic attack, you understand. They are extremely horrible, but I'm doing better now. So that's why this is coming out now and is extremely rambly because I did not have all my thoughts together and is not as fresh in my mind as it was when I first thought up doing this video, but I did it anyway. So let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below and all of that, and leave a like, and that's all from me. Good luck to all of us, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!